Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're getting our first impressions of the new releases from Autopsy, Drowning Pool, Tankard, and Slipknot. So 4 albums releasing today. Obviously 1 very notable band and 3 known bands but a little less more notable. But either way, let's kick it off with, let's start with Tankard. Okay, so Tankard is one of the German Big Four, okay? I never really got into them too much. I've heard them before. But you put this album on and you're going to get what you expect. And that's just an awesome thrash album. There's great riffs, there's good vocals, it's just everything's there that you want to be there. And it's all about beer and, you know, it's almost like a party album. Like we were just talking about it a minute ago. It feels like a party album, but it doesn't really sound like one. Yeah. Which is kind of weird. But overall, I had fun with it. There was only one real standout track for me though, and that was number 8, which is called Dark Self-Intruder. And the reason it stood out is because there's riffs in this song that reminded me of Nightcrawler by Judas Priest. It wasn't a complete rip-off, it was kind of like a little, maybe an homage or something that was just ringing to it.
I'll have to listen again, Dad.
And I went, oh, I said, that's cool, where did I know that from? I was like, oh, that's like a Nightcrawler, that's awesome. And the fact that it's called Dark Self-Intruder and then Nightcrawler, it makes me wonder if it was a deliberate homage to that riff, because those name titles kind of match a little bit. But overall, a very fun album. Enjoyed it quite a bit. And I'll probably give it some more time when I have a chance.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I had a lot of fun just listening to this album, and I have heard of this band, but never really listened to them before today. So I'm like, okay, Tankard, I know I've heard the name. I don't know what to expect at all, and I'm like, oh wow, these are sick riffs. This is a lot of fun. Beerbarians is probably the track that stood out to me the most, mainly because I'm listening to this track thinking, you know what? This is reminding me of Gwar. I feel like it's given the same kind of energy that Gwar gives when Gwar is at their best.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and it just feels like, oh, these are sick riffs, but it's also kind of funny at the same time.
Right.
Like, overall, it's like, oh, this is kick-ass and also entertaining at the same time. And I like that quite a bit, and I'm like, through every song, I'm like, yeah, these are cool, these are cool. Like, from Beerbarians onward, I feel like the album really ramped up.
Right.
So overall, a lot of fun.
Overall fun album. It's called Pavlov's Dogs, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the title of the album. And Dogs is D-A-W-G-S, so it's a little stylized there. So I want to talk about Drowning Pool, Strike a Nerve, only because I want to get it out of the way. So Drowning Pool, I don't know when's the last time these guys made an album. The only other thing I know of these guys for is Sinner, which is...
That's from way back.
Way back, early 2000s, like we're talking 2000, maybe 2001, I think. Even when that album came out, like I was like at the age where I should have loved that album. And other than the singles, like Sinner and Bodies, I didn't care for it too much. That was back then. But I completely kind of forgot how Drowning Pool was supposed to sound. And listening to this, I didn't think it sounded like proper Drowning Pool. Like, obviously, the original singer's not there anymore. He's passed away. So I don't know about this new singer, if this is the voice that the band is supposed to have. I don't know. I was thrown off. And if I'm going to be positive about it, the album does have some good riffs. Okay, that's probably the only redeeming quality for me on this album, is that some of the riffs were decent, but not good enough to really save it for me. So this album was not for me. Others might like it. Maybe if you're an original fan of Drowning Pool more than I was, then it might be better for you, but I didn't really like this album at all.
You know, one of the highest points for me from this album were the vocals. I really think the clean sounded really nice and the harshness sounded really nice. Like, they were both, it was just a really good performance overall, and I liked that. I just felt that some of these songs felt like, not really generic, but just kind of like, okay, this is fine. There's nothing really too remarkable about it. However, there were some songs that kind of stood out like, ooh, that's a good riff, or ooh, yeah, this is heavy, this is nice. From my reference point of Drowning Pool, I really only know the 2 songs, Bodies and Sinner. I love Sinner. Love that song to death. So that was kind of really my only reference point. I'm like, well, it's really a lot less raw sounding than that, but there's still elements that still provoke similar energy. So overall, it's not bad, not bad. It kind of ramped up near the end as well. You know,
yeah.
The last like 2 tracks, I would say, are like, okay, these, you know, some good stuff going on.
Overall, give it a listen though, and
yeah,
see what you think about it yourself.
So, Morbidity Triumphant by Autopsy. It's a death metal album, and that's all really there is that needs to be said. If you like old school death metal, you'll love the album, straight up. And that's what this album is. It's exactly what you'd expect from the genre. And that's it. That's kind of one of the issues, I guess, that I kind of personally have with the genre, is that there's not much depth to it, but I can understand that it's still enjoyable. It's not like I hate the album. It's just that, okay, this is what they present, and that's it. That's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, I think if this album came out in, like, 1986 or 1987, then you'd listen to it going, oh, wow, this has a lot of depth. But by today's standards, it's hard to really feel like that about an album like this. But it's not really a flaw because you're getting what you expect, right?
Exactly.
It's performed well. It's really cool. The whole thing's got this old school mean sounding vibe to it, but a track that stood out to me was Flesh Strewn Temple, which is track number 5. For no particular reason other than it sounded a little meaner and a little more old school and menacing to me. But overall, again, similar to the Tankard album, I had a good time listening to it, and I'll probably give it some more listens when I have a chance. But from cover to cover so far, I thought it was a pretty good album. I enjoyed it.
Fair enough. And now, the end so far. So, now that we're a little bit more prepared, let's talk about this album. I came into this album with a certain expectation.
Okay.
And it wasn't a bad one, but it was like, okay, this album's coming out, it might sound like this. Like, the singles kind of pushed it in a certain direction for me, that this album is going to focus on more melodic, anthem-y sounding things, which, based on what Corey said, saying, oh, this album's going to be real heavy, there's going to be barn burners, it's going to be crazy, it kind of gave me an expectation. I talked about that when we reacted to The Dying Song, and this album pleasantly surprised me. It was better than what I expected. I think, as always, they tried new things, and they do that every album. There's something that they do that you think, well, Slipknot hasn't tried that before.
Yeah.
Perfect example, first track, Adderall. This song sounds like Opeth wrote it. I don't know if you got that idea, but based on what I know about Opeth and just their sound, this totally sounds like a song that they would write, but Slipknot's performing it. And you could think like, oh, well, that doesn't sound very like Slipknot, so like Opeth or whatever. No, it's Slipknot performing the song. It's a great song. I really like how it sounds. It's just like, wow, this sounds so different, but I like it.
So I disagree with a couple things. So I had much higher expectations for this album than what I got. I'm not thrilled over my first couple listens like I thought I was going to be. Maybe I set my standards a little too high, and over the week reviewing it, maybe I'll, come to appreciate it more. Not that I didn't like it, I'm not saying that at all. But the album starts, like you said, with Adderall. And it's not Slipknot. It's Queens of the Stone Age. And you said Opeth, and I kind of get what you're saying by Opeth. It does sound like something that might have been written by Opeth. But this sounds like Queens of the Stone Age to me. Do you listen to Queens of the Stone Age? Have you ever?
No. So I wouldn't really know for sure, but if I did, I could maybe see the comparison.
I was really into Queens of the Stone Age at one point, and this to me sounds like Queens of the... It doesn't even sound like Slipknot performing a different song. It sounded almost straight up like Queens of the Stone Age to me. Now, is it a bad song? No. It's still a good song, but for an intro track, I thought it was kind of weird. I was thrown off right at the beginning of the album.
It's easy to get thrown off by an intro track such as this. I feel like if you're a Slipknot listener, that you listen to all their albums, you're fans like us, you'll be used to an intro track, or at least setting up for the next song, not being its own track entirely.
It was weird. But after that, things were generally fine. I mean, there was nothing else that really threw me off too much. There was some experimental stuff here and there, which is good. I like when Slipknot does that. It often works. I don't know, what songs should we talk about? Let's throw something out there.
Let's talk about Heirloom.
Heirloom, I actually don't have any notes for Heirloom, so go ahead and tell us what you want to say.
No, there's. I feel like it's been a long-standing quote-unquote issue within Slipknot fans saying, "Oh, this band sounds like Stone Sour now."
Yeah.
Now, and I understand why. I feel like Slipknot over the years, I want to say starting with maybe All Hope Is Gone onward, they've kind of been making a lot of music that really tries to be anthem-y. And I don't feel like that's like what they're going for. That's just kind of just what the writing style has become, especially because, from Point 5 onward, a lot more of the writing style came from Jim, who was the guitar player for Stone Sour, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But with Heirloom, it kind of feels like with Corey's performances, like this is a Stone Sour song, but a good one. It's a good Stone Sour song, so it's okay. And you know what? I'll probably get out of that headspace as we listen throughout the week, but it's like, I like the song, it just feels a little bit too much like not Slipknot, to me. However, like I said, it's still a good song and I enjoy it. I just think it's like, well, this one might be going a little over that line a little too much.
Yeah.
But even so, I mean, there's still tracks like Hell. Hell, stylized as H377.
Yeah.
When Corey said they were barn burners, this is a perfect example of one. Holy shit. When was the last time you heard Corey, sing this fast?
The vocal flow in this song is impressive.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous. I'm listening to this like, what the fuck is going on? This is insane.
I think he's done faster before, but it's been a while since he's done it like that, which is good. Exactly. I'm glad that they're reaching back to their repertoire of old skills and pulling them back out again.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when was the last time you heard something like that? It's been ages. Medicine for the Dead. You know what? This is the kind of song that has a lot of weight to it and feels heavy, not entirely from being the most brutal song in the world, but it has that heavy weight to it. And I believe you've talked about this before when we talked about other Slipknot songs. If you remember A Liar's Funeral from We Are Not Your Kind, this song, it doesn't sound the same, but it has the similar kind of slow, brooding, heavy weight that just pulls you down into the ground.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And I feel like a good chunk of this album just has like good song after good song. I know you really liked the Dying song when we checked it out, in the reaction. What are your thoughts now after listening to it today?
I still love the Dying song. I think it's a great song. I think the hook is really good. I think lyrically it's awesome. And I think this is a good example for people that think Slipknot doesn't sound like Slipknot anymore. Put the Dying song on and just sing the lyrics to Sick along with it, because for the first, at least during the intro, it matches almost perfectly, which tells me that the band sounds very similar to how they sounded when they first emerged out on the scene, but they've evolved and they've learned to master their craft a lot more.
Exactly. You can't say that they're not Slipknot anymore when you can really literally overlap older Slipknot onto newer Slipknot and it's still the same band, still the same sound and same vibe.
Exactly. I think they did that on purpose too. And I think another band did this recently. I think it was Megadeth, who did something similar where they had some riffs and some lyrical phrasings that were very similar to some older stuff, just to prove that they still sound like their older selves. So during the production of this album and stuff, it was said that this album's going to sound similar to All Hope Is Gone. That's kind of a known thing that was going around. For me personally, I hear a lot more Iowa stuff on here, and Iowa's usually regarded as the gold standard of Slipknot. But you take songs like the Chapeltown Rag, I feel like that's Iowa-era Slipknot right there. Like, just
I love that
raw,
song.
heavy, very unsettling riffs, the scratching, all that stuff. We reacted to Yen, and we both agreed that Yen had Kill Pop vibes. Yep. Well, I feel like it also has Left Behind vibes, and that might sound a little weird, but there's the part in Left Behind where he says, I can feel it on my mouth, I can taste it on my fingers. That section of that song has vibes from Yen in it, right? And then a song like Acidic, right, which is also an experimental song. It's got this kind of bluesy kind of vibe to it. I got some gently vibes from that song, so it's another Iowa song. So I'm hearing a lot of, like, obviously different eras of Slipknot here and there, but I'm pulling parallels from Iowa all over the place, and it's surprising me because I wasn't expecting that.
If I were to compare this to another album, I would say this is like a heavier 0.5 almost. It's like you take a lot of the things that were introduced in 0.5 and made them heavier, harder, and crazier, Yeah. Like, I feel like that's kind of the direction it went. If I were to make such a comparison, keep in mind, every Slipknot album has its own personality, its own feel. It puts you in a different place every time they make an album. And that's incredible, that for so many albums now, they're all completely unique and different experiences.
Yeah, but they also have the same Slipknot
vibe. It's still the same band, though. It still feels like the same band, and that's also just a marvel,
Yeah, so overall, I listened to this album a couple times today, and I gotta say, I like it, I'm digging it, but I'm hoping that my expectations are met through the week, because this is my favorite band, and I was hoping to put this album on and be floored by it, and I just wasn't quite there. So, hopefully it grows on me. We're going to listen to it all week long, and you guys, I know you guys are probably wondering about these masks. If you guys want to know about these masks that we're wearing, you got to tune into our full review next week. We'll give you all the details on these masks, where we got them, and all that good stuff. But for now, guys, leave your comments down below. Let us know what you guys think of the new Slipknot and these other albums. We hope you check them all out. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vilesel.
I'm TV Fish.
And we'll see you guys on the next one.